Dear students, myself Dr. Rashmi B.S., working as Assistant Professor and Chairperson in the Department of Information Technology, Karnataka State Open University, Mysore, welcome you all to this session on green computing, which is included as an open elective in your curriculum. Let us start our discussion with this phrase. Green computing is a contribution to save the environment and our planet Earth. Nowadays, going green is a rising trend to save the environment. This now appears in a large number of aspects in our lives, such as recycling, energy efficient devices, clean energy sources, eco friendly vehicles, green buildings, etc. Computing has also established its share to contribute to saving the environment under the concept green computing. So, what is green computing? Green computing is the environmentally responsible and eco friendly use of computers and their resources. We are in a digital empowered society using digital equipments, right? So, in today's world, it is nearly impossible to find a home or a business center without a computer. With such popularity, the inefficient disposal of computer equipments has known to cause many harms to our planet Earth. So, this gave evolvement to the concept of green computing. So, apart from computers, there are different kinds of electrical appliances that consume significant amount of energy. So, this creates a demand for the energy production. So, therefore, it is necessary for us to decrease this energy crisis as much as possible for making a more eco friendly environment. So we discussed the major goal of green computing, that is to reduce hazardous materials and maximize energy efficiency while designing, manufacturing, and disposing of computers. So as a result of this, nowadays many IT departments and large technical giants have adopted green computing initiatives to reduce the environmental effect to their IT operations. So let us start our discussion with the introduction. Do you know that computing and related technologies account for more than 2% of all global greenhouse gas emissions? So, one cannot deny the fact that information technology has drastically improved our work and life, but it is contributing to certain environmental problems that nobody realizes. So, in order to promote green information technology, we must ask ourselves some questions. So, what are the questions? So, what are the key environmental impacts arising from IT? What are the major environmental IT issues that we must address? How can we make our IT infrastructure, products, services, operations, applications, and practices environmentally sound? What are the regulations or standard with which we need to comply? How can IT assist business and society at large in their efforts to improve our environmental sustainability? Okay, so since it is a new topic to you, so you must understand the basic definition of green computing, right? So, green computing is a sustainable approach in the design, right? So, in the design, manufacture, use, and disposal of IT resources. So, what are the IT resources? So, that includes monitors, printers, storage system, network equipments, etc., in an efficient manner so that it has minimal impact on environment. So, we as the customers or the users of IT should take care of environment. So, when we are using the technological devices, we should see that we have a minimal impact on the environment. So, sustainable computing is our future, and that's why it has been included in the curriculum. We are legally, ethically, and socially required to green our IT products, applications, services, and practices. So, these are our responsibilities as this generation. Hence, we can say that by adopting green computing practices, we can achieve a healthier environment without compromising our current and future technological requirements. So let us understand what is green computing in detail. So green computing involves reducing the environmental impact as I explained. That means using less energy, reducing waste and promoting sustainability, right? So green computing aims to reduce the carbon footprint generated by information technology system business and related industries. So, green computing is an approach towards environmentally sustainable use of computing. So, it involves manufacturing, designing, disposing, and using computers and related resources effectively and efficiently with minimal to no negative effects on the environment. So, what is this sustainable approach? So, this sustainable approach save electricity and ensures computers generate less heat. So it also helps protect the environment from hazardous materials and their impacts, right? So what is meant by energy efficiency and e-waste? These two are the major techniques involved in green computing. So energy efficiency involves implementation of energy efficient central processing units, servers and peripherals, as well as reduce resource consumption. Peripherals are the input output devices that are connected to your system. So e-waste, already you know, it is the proper disposal of electronic waste. So as a technological user, we should see that we are performing energy efficiency and e-waste in a proper way in order to implement green computing. So, in addition, green computing also applies management technologies. So, management technologies, right? And strategies to reduce energy wastage. So, furthermore, green computing is vital for every class of system from large data centers to handheld systems. So, it helps create a sustainable business process, spreading awareness and running environmental initiatives to build a better future. So, since we are using handheld systems, all of us are using mobile systems, so we are equally responsible to protect our environment. So, how did green computing originate? So, old computers were massive and consumed much more energy. So, during early decades, so early computers they were using CRT monitors and consumed more energy. So, it took a significant amount of time to manage them as well. So they always consume power even if they are idle because there was no sleep or hibernation mode during early decades. So this challenge resulted in creating an innovation program, that is Energy Star, in 1992 by US Environmental Protection Agency, that is EPA. So the Energy Star program aims to recognize and promote energy efficient, monitors eco-friendly devices and other climate control technology. So it led to the foundation of what we call today as green computing or green IT. So, so you have noticed that whenever you buy any electronic devices nowadays today, it has got this Energy Star sticker that is available on all the devices. So it will check the power consumption. So what is the power consumption consumed by the device? So all those are controlled and it is standardized by this Energy Star rating. So this was the evolution of green computing. So, what are the green computing initiatives? So, the green computing initiatives are as follows, that is, energy consumption. So, what is energy consumption? It minimizes the electricity consumption of computers and their peripheral devices. Peripheral devices, as I told you, are the input output devices connected to any system, using them in a eco-friendly manner. So green disposal. So this is one of the important initiatives. So disposing and recycling unwanted computing devices. So it should be done in a proper way, right? In an efficient way. So green development and design. So design and development of energy computers, servers, printers, projectors, and other digital devices. That is the usage of energy harvesting technologies in the computer industry. So, what is green manufacturing? So, green manufacturing, the industries are taking care of manufacturing the eco friendly devices. So, they will also take recycling electronic components and modules during the manufacturing of computers and their peripheral devices. So, minimizing waste during the manufacturing of computers and other systems will reduce the environmental impact. So, why is green computing important? So, computers have become an inseparable part of our modern generation, right? So, it saves our time and effort and makes our lives easier. But it also consumes significant energy, it will generate heat, and has several other negative impacts on our environment. So those who are using laptops or your mobile phones or your tablets, so you have experienced all these impacts. So due to high energy consumption, so computers and other electronic devices impact our environment and depletes water, air, and land. So consequently, it brings climate change, air, toxicity, acid rain, etc. So, the increasing emissions of harmful greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide result in pollution and deteriorate the environment. So, this increases the global warming and climate change. See, till now you are using technological devices, but you are not aware of all these things. So, this curriculum has been introduced for you to know about the impact of IT with in relation to climate changes and so on. So computers and other peripherals, data centers, networking devices, etc. produce carbon dioxide in abundance. In abundance means in large. So in addition, some parts of computers are non-biodegradable or recyclable. Okay, so manufacturing computer products involves toxic chemicals for fire protection, electrical insulation, and soldering. So, exposure to these chemical fumes over a prolonged period can cause miscarriages, cancer, etc. So we should take care of all these things in a proper way. So improper disposal of these devices can be harmful to the environment, as they have certain hazardous chemicals and materials like lead, cadmium, mercury, etc. So hence green computing is a way to reduce these harmful impacts and encourage the practice of environmentally responsible computing. So let us move to advantages of green computing. Since you are learning green computing concepts, so how you will benefit from green computing. So green computing emphasizes low energy consumption and it helps reduce fossil fuel utilization and green gas house emissions. So it also aims to lower heat generation from computers and electronic devices to protect the environment. The main aim of uh, you and me is to protect the environment. So it promotes the efficient usage of natural resources and their preservation. So, this approach emphasizes the usage of non toxic substances that reduces the health hazards. So, green computing encourages recycling and reusability of materials to reduce the electronic waste that reduce lower land pollution. So, though it is cost effective, it involves less energy and cooling needs. So, implementing green computing makes us responsible for the environment and towards leading a sustainable future. So it is our responsibility to save the environment. So I'm repeating many times because till now we were using the technological devices, but we were not aware about the impacts of those technological devices. So as a future generation, people like you and me, we have to analyze all these things, and we have to use the gadgets in a proper way. So before buying it and while using it and at the disposal part. Now let us move on to the challenges of green computing. So what challenges we have? So due to lack of concern and huge market competition, companies resist this change. Consequently, everyone has to suffer this impact. So though leadership and educating people about the dangers can increase awareness and adapt eco-friendly ways. So frequent technology changes can confuse them to decide how to proceed. Okay, so take for example 1G mobile, 2G mobile, 3G mobile. So now recently we have 5G mobile. So people are switching from 4G mobile to 5G mobile. So what will they do with 4G mobile? What precautions they are taking? What companies, like the companies are giving them manual, or they are giving them awareness how to dispose it? No. So people are not at all aware what to do with the unused devices. So the initial cost of implementing green computing is very high, because everybody should take care, should analyze, should get the information, and how it has to be reduced in a large way, in a huge way. So less information is available on green computing, and there is a great level of difference in understanding across end users, professionals, and also the companies. So companies find it difficult to make decisions due to fragmented data. So they must put more effort into collecting and analyzing the data, and conclude that the method they use is environment friendly yet profitable for their business. Now, whether it is a small scale business or large scale business, all the government standards have been maintained in order to in order to manufacture eco friendly devices. So, what are the main environmental issues and problems? So, with this in mind, let's focus on what each of us, as IT professionals, members of the IT industry, and IT users, we may belong to any category. Okay, so can do individually and collectively to create a sustainable environment. So, this is very, very important as an IT user. So let's examine IT environmental impact and consider green IT measures that we can adopt, right? So its environmental impact, IT affects our environment in several different ways. So each stage of computer's life, from its production throughout its use and into its disposable, presents environmental problems. So not only computers, so other devices. We can also consider other devices like tablets, like laptops, like globally used IT gadget is your mobile, right? So manufacturing computers and their various electronic and non-electronic components consumes electricity, raw materials, chemicals, water, and generates hazardous waste. So all these directly or indirectly increase carbon dioxide emissions and impact our environment. So, what are the environmental impacts of IT? So, total electrical energy consumption by servers, computers, monitors, data communication equipments, and data center cooling system is steadily increasing. So, all these devices consume lot of electrical energy, right? So, this increase results in greater greenhouse gas emission. So that is GHG emissions, as most electricity is generated by burning fossil fuel like coal, oil, and gas. So, for instance, take for example, PC in use generates about a ton of carbon dioxide every year. So, computer components contain toxic materials. So increasingly, consumers discard a large number of old computers, monitors, and other electronic equipments 2 to 3 years after purchase. And most of this ends up in landfills, polluting the earth and contaminating the water, right? So we don't know how people are throwing the waste, that is the e-waste materials. So old mobiles might be lying, so they might throw into the garbage and it might reach the earth, the soil, and it will contaminate the water also and the soil also, right? So the increased number of computers and their use along with their frequent replacement make IT's environmental impact a major concern. So every day new technology is coming, new communication is coming, new ubiquitous internet technologies are evolving. So all of you will go for newer devices, right? Newer devices, because the whatever data you're sending, it should reach in a faster way. So considering that, you will be buying newer devices according to the new technology. But what we are going to do with your old devices, that nobody is thinking. Even the company, those who are manufacturing it, they are not giving proper information to the IT users, right? So there is an increasing pressure on the IT industry, business, and individuals to make IT environmental friendly throughout its life cycle, that is from birth to death or to rebirth. So, as many believe it is our social as well as corporate responsibility to safeguard our environment. Since everybody are using, since it is all these equipments are global products, everybody are using, so everybody are equally responsible to safeguard our environment. So, what is green IT? So, green IT refers to environmental sound IT. So, actually, it is the already I have discussed that it is the study and practice of designing, manufacturing, using, and disposing of computers, servers, and other devices efficiently and effectively with minimal or no impact on the environment. Okay. So green IT also strives to achieve economic viability and improve system performance and use while abiding our social and ethical responsibilities. So thus, green IT includes the dimensions of environmental sustainability, and some of the major areas and activities include, so nowadays they are using this automobiles with electric cars, electric devices. So that is one of the way we are uh, protecting our environment by not consuming more energy devices. So, green IT spans a number of focus areas and activities which include design for environmental sustainability, energy efficient computing, power management, data center design, layout and location, server virtualization, responsible disposal and recycling, regulatory compliance, green metrics, assessment tools and methodology, environment related risk mitigation, use of renewable energy sources, and eco labeling of IT products. So these are considered as the major activities for implementing green IT. So, what are the benefits of green IT? So, environmental issues influence IT business competitive landscapes in new ways. So, enterprises with the technology and vision provide products and services that address environmental issues that will enjoy competitive edge, right? So, for instance, take for example Dell and and Walmart are adopting initiatives that force their suppliers to adhere to environmentally sound practices. Now, all electronically manufacturing devices are taking initiatives, or already they have taken initiatives to produce eco-friendly devices. So people have begun to value the environmentally friendly attributes of IT, and in the next 5 years, green IT will become a common feature. So they will not give permission for any company to initiate their work. So if they don't have their aim or their strategy to save the environment. So companies will offer a range of new green products and services, and new business opportunities will emerge. So IT now has the new role to play in creating greener, more sustainable environment while offering economic benefits by becoming greener. So green IT is an umbrella term referring to environmentally sound information technologies and system applications and practices. So this I am repeating many times. So it encompasses three complementary IT enabled approaches to improving environmental sustainability. So, what are the green IT dimensions? So, first one is green IT systems and usage. So, green IT to support environmental sustainability. So, green IT to create green awareness. So, these are the responsibilities for green IT. Okay, so the efficient and effective design, manufacture, use, and disposable of computer hardware as well as software and communication system with no or minimal impact on the environment. So that is the first priority given. So what is the second priority? This use of IT and information system to empower, that is to support, assist, and leverage other enterprise-wide environmental activities. So the harnessing of IT to help create awareness among stakeholders and promote the green agenda and green initiatives. So as a green IT member, so we have to create awareness among others stakeholders and promote green agenda and green initiatives. So that's why all these concepts have been included in your curriculum, so that you can also impart this to your friends and other members. So though with those uh, who will communicate with you. Okay. So green IT is not just about creating energy efficient IT systems, though it is an important component. So especially as the use of IT proliferates. So green IT is about the application of IT to create energy efficient, environmentally sustainable business process and practices, transportation as well as buildings. So all these will be covered under green IT umbrella. So, what is OECD Green IT Framework? So, it is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development that has been proposed as a green IT framework consisting of three analytical levels. See, actually, this green IT, so what we are talking about, it is a global concept, right? It is a global concept. So we have direct impacts on technology, enabling impacts on applications, and systematic impacts on behavioral change. So what are the direct impacts? So when it comes to direct impacts, so these are IT's first order effects on environment that include both positive and negative impacts due to physical existence, due to its physical existence. So, enabling impacts are the second order. It is the second order impact, and this is the first order impact. So, enabling impacts are the second order impacts that arise from IT applications. So that reduce environmental impacts across several economic and social activities. Okay. So what is systematic impacts of IT? So systematic impacts of IT and their application on the environment is also called as third order impact. Third order impact. So it involves behavioral change and process change. So these are the impacts of green IT framework. So next we will move on to green IT version 1.0 and then 2.0. So what is green IT 1.0? So the first wave of green IT, the greening of IT or green IT 1.0 was internally focused on re-engineering IT products and process to improve IT energy efficiency, maximize its use and meet compliance requirements. So, however, mentioned the vast majority of GHG emissions that deteriorate our environment come from non-IT resources, right? So, to create significant energy savings and improve the overall environmental sustainability, we need to focus our attention and efforts on other areas also. So, not only IT, the environment will be affected by IT devices, but also we should see that the environment is also affected by non-IT resources. So what is Green IT 2.0? So it is second wave of Green IT. So that is Green IT 2.0 is externally focused and empowers a range of other Green IT initiatives aimed at reducing environmental degradation and reducing GHG emissions. So, in addition, being green itself, IT can help create a more sustainable environment. How can it be done? By coordinating, re-engineering and optimizing the supply chain manufacturing activities, making business operation, buildings and other system energy efficient. So helping decision making by analyzing, modeling and simulating environmental impacts, and we can also provide platforms for eco-managed and emission trading, auditing and reporting energy consumption and saving, and offering environmental knowledge management system and decision support system. So in all these things, the green IT can be implemented in various ways. So next we will move on to the holistic approach to greening IT. So here we have six strategies involved. So green use of IT systems, so green disposal of IT system, green design of IT system, green manufacturing of IT system, green standards and metrics. So and then green strategies and then policies. So we have six approaches here. So green design, energy efficient and environmentally sound components. So all devices should meet the requirements, right? Should meet the requirements. Green manufacturing system should be take while manufacturing the devices. So care should be taken to reduce the effects on the environment, and then green standardize and matrix. So like benchmarking strategies has to be implemented and it has to be devised by each manufacturing company. IT strategies and policies has to be taken care. Policies have to be taken care uniformly. So in order to ensure long term benefits, and then green use of IT systems. So it should be used in a sound manner. So these are different approaches of greening the information technology devices. So next we will move on to the 3 R's of green IT. So what are 3 R's of green IT? So that is reuse, so refurbish, and then recycle. So all these things already you know the concept. So but we are understanding this considering the IT impact on environment. So what is reuse? By using hardware for a longer period of time, we can reduce the total environmental footprint caused by computer manufacturing and at its disposal. At its disposal, right? So many organizations and individuals buy new computers for each project or once in every 3 years. Instead, we should make use of older computer if it meets our requirements, right? Otherwise, we should give it to someone who could use it to another project or unit. So we should think whether we have to reuse it by changing by upgrading some of the components, and then we can reduce the impact on environment. So, what is refurbish? So, rather than buying a new computer to our specification, so we can also buy refurbished hardware in the market. So, more enterprises are now open to purchasing refurbished IT hardware, and the market for refurbished equipment is growing. So, if these options are unsuitable, we can donate the equipment to charity schools or someone who can use it, right? So we can refurbish and upgrade old computers and servers to meet our new requirements. So recycle. So recycle is a very very important concept where we cannot when we cannot refurbish or otherwise reuse computers, we must dispose them in an environmental friendly ways by depositing them in recognized electronic recycles or e-waste collectors. So e-waste is not a new concept to you. So e-waste is a concept where discarded computers and electronic goods are controlled, are demolished in one of the fastest growing waste types and poses serious environmental problems. Okay, so if we buy IT hardware in if we bury all the IT hardware in landfills, toxic materials can leach harmful chemicals into waterways and the environment. So if burned, they release toxic gases into the air we breathe. So if e-waste is not discarded properly, it can harm the environment to us, and the waste electrical and electronic equipment regulation aim to reduce the amount of e-waste going to landfills and increase recovery and recycling rates. So we should take care of all the 3 R's of green IT. So what are green IT standards and then regulations? So there are three green IT standards and regulation. First one is EPEAT, and second one is Energy Star 4.0 standard, and the third one is ROHS directive. So EPEAT assists buyers to evaluate, compare, and select desktop computers, notebooks, and monitors based on their environmental attributes. So what does it do? It helps manufacturers to promote their products as environmentally sound. So all EPEAT registered computers have reduced levels of cadmium, lead, mercury to better protect the human health. Okay, so EPEAT recognizes several desktop computers, laptops, monitors from leading manufacturers as green products. So all the manufacturing companies, so they must undergo this EPEAT test in order to promote their products to the end user. So, what is Energy Star 4.0? So, the new Energy Star 4.0 standard regulates energy performance of external and internal power supplies and gives power consumption specification. So, for idle, sleep, and standby modes for number of different devices like PCs, desktops, and gaming consoles. Okay, so all these things already we have in our devices. Excuse me. So ROHS directive. So it is a restriction of hazardous substances in electrical and electronic equipment directive aims to restrict the use of hazardous substances. So it also bans placing new electrical and electronic equipment on the European market if it contains more than agreed upon levels of lead, cadmium, mercury, hexavalent, chromium, and flame retardants. These are the hazardous substances that are present in the devices. So all these green IT standards and regulations are implemented in all the manufacturing companies in order to maintain their standards. That means at the time of manufacturing itself, so they will take care of all these restrictions, and then they will release the devices to the market so that the end users can buy the devices. So, can we use IT for environmental sustainability? So, being IT itself, so besides IT itself being green, it can support, assist, and influence other environmental initiatives by offering innovative modeling, simulation, and decision support tools. So software tools for analyzing. So you will be astonished or you will be surprised. Even software are the major factor in affecting the environment. So software tools are used for analyzing, modeling, and simulating environmental impact and environmental risk management. Okay, so platforms for eco management, emission trading, or ethical investing is implemented. So, tools for auditing and reporting energy consumption and saving for monitoring greenhouse gas emissions, environmental knowledge management system, including geographic information system and environmental metadata standards. So, when it comes to the smart city planning, so urban environmental planning tools and system technologies and standards are used for interoperable environmental monitoring networks and smart sensor networks. So green IT also integrates and optimize the existing environmental monitoring networks and with the new easy plug-in sensors, because all the devices what we are using has got the sensors. So proper management, proper power saving management, proper it should be properly managed with the less impact on the environment while we are using it. So next we will move on to using IT to create green awareness. So how we are using IT devices in order to create green awareness. So already we had discussed in the holistic approach. This is one of the approach in promoting the less impact on environment. So IT is part of environmental problem, and it can be also part of the solution. So greening IT is and will continue to be a necessity, not an option. Okay. So green IT represents a dramatic change in priority in the IT industry. So though we have uh, hazardous materials that are present in the devices, but we have some solution how to overcome all those things. So IT can be a part of environmental problem also, and it can be part of the solution also. So far the IT industry has been focusing on IT equipment processing power and associated equipment spending. So however, going forward the IT industry, we will need to deal with all of the infrastructure requirements and the environmental impact of and its use. So, as a summary, uh, we can discuss like this: the IT sector and the users must develop a positive attitude towards addressing the environmental concerns and adopt forward looking green friendly policies and practices. So we have IT industries at one level, and we and users IT users at the another level. So both are equally responsible in order to promote eco friendly environment, right? So every business, big or small, faces environmental risks and opportunities. So all the businesses must develop a positive attitude towards addressing the environmental concerns and adopt forward-looking green-friendly policies and then practices. So even the challenge is very difficult. So the recent developments indicate that the IT industry has the will and conviction to tackle all these environmental issues head on. So in future, so lot of awareness will be given to all the end users, right, in order to use the devices, that is the gadgets, in a efficient manner. So next topic, we will move on to green IT devices. That means we will discuss some hardware and software issues. So when you look at these images, we have laptops here, and we have servers here, and we have data centers, and then we have cloud computing. So when you look at these images only, you can recognize. So all these things every day we are using. So many users are using laptops, and whatever data we have to store, whether it is a university or whether it is a bank, whether it is a government organization. So all our data are stored in servers, but not in one location. It can be stored at different geographical locations at different with using distributed networks, and also cloud computing concepts have been introduced where at one place the data can be housed and it can be retrieved in an efficient manner. So whatever you see here, so it is nothing but the devices what we are using. So all these devices will consume lot of energy. So, what is the energy it is consuming? It is the electrical energy it is consuming. And what are the impacts? So, a lot of impacts are there on consuming its electrical resources, and also after using. So, it will be efficiently used, but after using, when it comes to the disposal stage, it is not properly disposed. And how we can control all these sectors. So these are the various sectors where the electronic gadgets are extensively used nowadays. Okay, so since all the devices have become ubiquitous, and it has also become the intrinsic part of our lives. So when they are manufacturing a hardware, so each hardware has got a life cycle. Okay, so the typical life cycle of a device include the design, manufacture and facilities, packaging and transportation, usage, reuse, or disposal. So, a green device cannot be built by just adding an additional step in the entire life cycle of the device. So, there needs to be collective effort, right? So there needs to be a collective effort at every stage of the device life cycle. So from the moment the device is conceived or designed, to the development, and to the time when it is used and recycled or disposed. So figure shows the typical design process. So setting the environmental targets, and it should be performed in parallel to conceptualization. Okay, so take for example, so from the design, manufacture and facilities, packaging and transportation, usage, reuse, and then disposal. So these targets can be derived from the device environmental objectives and based on the environmental impact assessment report of the similar device. So we first need to map the device here, right? We first need to map the device entire life cycle to understand the places where we perceive and estimate the environmental impact. So let us go to the design part here. So first one is the design phase. So the idea is conceptualized and the device is designed, prototyped and tested. So let it be any device. So through this stage, though this stage does not have direct impact on environment, design stage decisions such as those regarding architecture, constituent components, or material layouts have a huge effect on environmental impact on other stages. Hence, it is important to design devices so as to keep their environmental impact as low. So, when you look at the figure, so the design stage is the preliminary stage here. So the concept and targets have been devised here, and then in the next step, so considering the environmental targets, so it has been assessed and improved, and the design, whatever the design of that particular product, let it be any technological product or an electronic product, so the design should meet the standards in order to meet the environmental less environmental impact. Okay, so the idea has to be conceptualized and it has to be designed and prototype. Prototype means it has to be sampled and the design will be created and it will move to the next step. So in the next step is the manufacturing stage. So at the manufacturing step, so what are the measures that has to be taken care. So manufacturing processes are resource intensive and consume lot of raw materials, water and energy. So they create many different categories of waste which are very toxic. So this is very important stage of an device, that is at the manufacturing stage. So electronic devices may contain hazardous materials and its impact are as follows. Now you have to listen carefully. So lead is generally used in printed circuit boards and in glass monitors. So the pathological effects of lead as most prominent in the nervous system, hematophytic system and kidneys. Excessive exposure to lead results in clinical toxicity. So cadmium is generally used in low temperature soldering, plating for corrosion protection. So cadmium when consumed affects livers and kidneys. So mercury is mainly used in monitors and batteries. So please note that all of you are using laptops, your desktops, and your mobile. So all the batteries is made up of mercury. It affects immune system, alters genetic and enzyme system, and damages the nervous system. So new light emitting diode backlight technologies have been developed, which make monitors mercury free. So PBDs and PBBs are used as flames and are ubiquitous environmental pollutants. So they are extremely toxic and are banned in many countries. So efforts are going to remove these materials from the manufacture of computers. So next is arsenic. Arsenic is used in glass and in manufacturing semiconductors. So arsenic interferes with cellular longevity by allosteric inhibition of an essential metabolic enzyme. So PVC, already you have learned PVC cables. It is one of most commonly used plastics worldwide. So it has been used extensively in the manufacture of computer parts. So vinyl chloride, one of the main ingredients of PVC, is carcinogen and also affects the human reproductive system. See, lot of toxic materials have been used at the manufacturing stage, so which will affect the human system. Okay, so you should be aware of all these things, so then only you can use the devices efficiently, and you can take care of the disposal in a proper manner without affecting the environment. Okay, so in order to control these materials at the manufacturing level. So EPIT, already energy standard metric, we have already discussed. So EPIT grades electronic devices and computer system into three grades, that is bronze, silver, and gold. So which helps the customers to identify how green a device is and helps them to make informed choices. So there are standards which will control at the manufacturing level. So all the companies will go through EPIT measures and metrics in order to manufacture in a proper way. So what precautions that we should take, that the industries, IT industry will take while packaging or during the transportation? So the two main contributors in this segment are the materials used for packaging and the carbon footprint of vehicles used in transportation. So the size of the device has an effect on the amount of packaging required. So that is true. So even during the design stage, effort must be made to make the device as compact as possible, right? So eco-friendly materials like recycled paper, so potato starch and recycled board can be used as packaging materials, and soy ink can be used for printing. So while packaging, the following measures has to be taken. So packaging material should be recyclable. The amount of packaging material should be kept at a minimum. So various materials used in packaging should be easily separable. Adhesive use should be reduced by using folds and tabs instead. All the additives, coatings, and inks that get added to the package should be eco-friendly. See, all these measures has to be taken care. So printed documentation must be avoided wherever possible. Instead, documentation could be provided through devices web page. So all these things can be taken care at the time of packaging and then transportation. So what is the use of the device? So, quite a significant amount of energy is consumed by devices when they are being used, that is powered. So, This increases the device carbon footprint thus resulting in a profound impact on the environment. The Energy Star rating system helps customers choose the most energy efficient devices and thereby reduce their energy consumption and the cost. So take for example, can you look at the figure here? Devices like kilowatt help measure the amount of energy consumed by a device over the time. So when kilowatt is plugged between the device and the power socket, so it measures the amount of energy. So it measures the amount of energy that the device consumes. So this can be used to measure the amount of energy consumed over time with different configuration of the device, and then thus helps one find the optimum configuration that consumes less energy or least energy. So you can also control the energy consumption of your devices by using this kilowatt device. So by monitoring this, you can also minimize the energy consumption. So what is greening IT? So one might wonder how we should go about greening IT and what subsystem of IT can be greened. So in fact, every subsystem and peripheral of IT can be green. So the key among them are, so we can green PCs, notebooks, servers, mobiles, specialized devices, data centers, cloud computing, storage systems, network communication system, and then printers. So all these things are not new terms to you. So you would have heard somewhere. So or you would have used some of the devices. So all these things can be green. So how it is possible? So we have to take some measures. So take some measures. So in order to utilize it in an efficient manner, right? Efficient manner. So let us know more about green notebook and or laptops. Laptops are also called as notebooks. So notebooks or laptops are generally powered by a rechargeable battery, which when in good condition powers the device for about 3 to 5 or 3 to 7 hours also at the initial stage. So the lifetime of the battery is generally very short. So it might last for 300 to 600 charge cycles. So this results in the need to replace the battery a few times during the lifetime of a laptop. So thereby contributing to e-waste, right? So a few companies are also coming out with notebook computers which run on solar power. So they are also coming with the new technology where your laptop can work on with the solar power also. So you can be aware that when you have already charged the laptop, think that you have 100% charged the laptop, then remove the cable. So remove the power cable so that the battery can be saved. Otherwise, more power will be consumed by the power consumption will be more, and then the battery lifespan will be less. So, lifespan will be less. So when it is completely charged, when your laptop is completely charged, so you can remove the cable until the battery drains out. Then only you can recharge it once again. Similarly, you should take care of your mobile. So even when your mobile is fully charged, again you need not recharge it. So until it drains, all the power drains, then only you can recharge it so that you can save the battery. So the laptop monitors consume 20 to 30% of the total energy used by the laptop. Okay, hence it is important to reduce their power consumption. So strategies that help in reducing their power consumption include the following. So when you are using your laptop, so reduce the brightness of the monitor to an appropriate level. Okay. So when some background task is running on the laptop, so there is no need to use monitor during that time. Switch off the monitor instead of using screensavers, because screensavers consume more energy. So most computer operating system provide power saving profiles. Okay, when you are buying new laptop or system, so you will having few power saving profile. So when enabled, reduce the amount of energy consumed by the computer. Okay, so laptop processors also consume, when it comes to processor technology, it consumes lot of power because it is the very powerful device within the system. That's why it consumes a lot of energy. It controls all the other peripheral devices and it consumes lot of power or the energy. So particularly when carrying out computationally intensive tasks. Okay. So the other major component of laptop that consumes lot of power is the hard disk, right? So hence it is important to keep the hard disk access to minimum and use it only when necessary. Since if you have an external hard disk only when needed, so you can connect it. So peripheral devices connected to a computer also consume energy. See, when you connect pen drives or any other devices using the USB ports, so your laptop also draws more power. So when you're not using the external devices, so you can switch it off or you can remove it from the device or you can unplug them. So most notebook computers can operate in at least two idle power modes, that is in standby mode or in hibernate mode. So in standby mode, what will happen is, so the laptop's internal devices and the optical drives are powered off, but the power is still maintained in the RAM, where the state of the device is preserved to facilitate instant resumption. Okay. So in the hibernate mode, the laptop completely shuts down while still retaining the power on state, that reducing the startup time. So when the laptop goes to hibernate mode, the current state of the machine is stored in the hard disk and all the devices including the RAM are powered off. Okay. So most laptops today are provided with power management features and also the software. So power management software can help in regulating, it helps in regulating the use of battery and electric power. So it monitors the load on the hard disk, the activities on the laptop, and the brightness and the changes that the computer settings to the optimal power. Also, the software will play an important role. That means when your laptop is not charged, it will show you battery low or fully charged, so on your taskbar, in order to give awareness of the power consumption in your laptop. So these are the greening IT issues related with the laptop or notebooks. Notebooks are also called as laptops. Next, we will go to green desktop computers. So we were just analyzing only desktops. Now let us see how it has been greened. So desktops are personal computers that are meant for us from single location. So we can use it from any single location and it is not portable as a laptop. So the processors used in desktop consume lot of power that their laptop counterparts. So you can think a typical desktop uses 115 watts of power. So a typical 17-inch monitor consumes about 80 watts of power compared to 28 watts consumed by 19-inch LCD monitor. So you can just imagine how much watts CRT monitor was using. Now it has been, now we have got LCD monitors and LED monitors in order to reduce the power consumption. So desktops are powered from external power. So in many cases, they are kept always on so that they can be remotely accessed from laptop or from other desktop. Okay, so to avoid having desktop switched on all the time, so remote wake up methodologies have been devised in during 1990. So advanced micro devices, that is AMD, and other several companies came together to develop a magic packet technology. It is called as wake on LAN, that is WON. So this relies a special kind of packet called as magic packet to wake up the computer. So when the computer is in sleep state, okay, so the Ethernet network controller is left powered on. So Ethernet network interface is powered on. So it is powered on. So this network interface controller can detect the magic packet trigger, and then the system can be on automatically remotely it can be on, so it can be switched on and the data can be retrieved. So, in enterprises where there are desktops in use, it is important to globally monitor the usage of all desktops to get the knowledge of their usage efficiency. So, tools like Night Watchman, the Energy Detective, Conserve Insight help managers in assessing the power usage over time. So, in many IT companies, so throughout 24 bar 7, so all the systems will be on. So, the power management softwares will take care of all these things. Okay, so they will monitor remotely, and even though the user will not switch off the monitor, so the software itself will monitor, will switch off the monitor, and then it will save the power. So all those softwares are available, and they will monitor the power consumption remotely. So recently, Dell company, Apple, and other computer vendors announced their environmental strategy designed to make their computers green for a long term. So they have already, a lot of initiatives have been taken by the manufacturing companies. Okay, for greening for it for a long term. So also they move from single core to dual core and quad core processors have been introduced, have been invented. So in order to save the power while increasing the processing performance rate. So more number of processors are involved in one processor. It is embedded as a one CPU, so where the performance issue can be increased and then the power consumption might be reduced. So, in addition to this, so Dell company also aims. So Dell company has also aims at zero carbon initiative, at maximizing the energy efficiency of Dell products. So next we can discuss about green servers. So how does this green servers help in the environmental impact? So in general, servers computers run one or more services that will be used by other computers in the network. So if you go to a bank, you can see servers. If you go to any organization, you can see they are using servers. If you go to government organizations, if you go to education institution, so almost all companies are using servers either remotely or physically. But without the existence of server, we cannot do any online transaction. All online transactions are performed through with the help of servers. So because they have powerful CPUs and large amount of memory are available, and all the resources are kept in racks. So examples of servers are mail servers, database servers, file servers, and then etc. So most of the time, in most of the cases, it provides increased reliability, and redundant servers are also used. So these servers are generally placed in data center. So data center is not a new term to you. So lot of data centers are available, which is geographically located at various places, and they are serving the society for various operations. So even though the growth of energy usage of data centers was less than predicted, it accounts for between 1.1% and 1.5% of the total electricity use. So servers in general generate large amount of heat due to their large power consumption, and hence they require better cooling mechanism. So cooling mechanism have been implemented in order to control more dissipated heat. So next is mobile devices. So we will talk about green mobile devices. So mobile devices compromise mobile phones. It can be personal digital assistants. It can be called as personal digital assistant or smart system, and so on. That these devices are small in size and are powered by rechargeable batteries. If batteries are low, then you cannot work with these devices. So these devices are produced in large numbers and are designed for operation with lower power consumption. So these are used by people all over the world from both developed and developing countries. So mobile devices use external chargers for their batteries. The power efficiency of these chargers is low, and most people keep the charger powered even when the mobile devices are disconnected after being charged. So chargers consume power even while not changing the battery, and hence waste the power. So chargers should be switched off or unplugged when they are not charging or disconnected from mobile devices. So awareness needs to be created among users to switch off the chargers when they are not needed. So as a mobile user, so you have to take care of all these things in order to have less impact on the environment. So it is your responsibility after getting awareness. So you have to maintain all these activities in your daily life. So in order to efficiently use the technological device in an proper manner. So we also now have awareness about specialized devices, so that are green specialized devices. So green specialized devices examples are set-top boxes, playstations, medical equipment like x-ray machines, and computerized tomography, that is CT scanners. So since these devices are designed to accomplish a specific purpose, so the designer can optimize the device for particular use and for lower power consumption. So devices like set-top boxes and PlayStation consume more power even when they are not in use. So for such devices, it is important to switch off the device so that they do not consume power when not in use. So at home, when you are not watching TV, so you can switch off it. So switch off the TV and all the devices connected to it, because all the devices will be consuming lot of energy. So when it is when it is in on state. So PlayStations in general have powerful graphics processor which consume a lot of power. So when you're using gaming devices, so it is your responsibility to switch it off when you're not using it for a long period. So it is important to create awareness among users of special devices to switch them off when they are not in use. So these are our responsibility that we have to take care. Next is about green data centers. So green data centers, what is a data center? So a data center is a physical facility that organizations use to house their critical applications and data. So both applications, apps, as well as data is stored at one place. So that is the data center. So a data center design is based on network of computing and storage of resources that enable the delivery of shared applications. So everything can be shared here. So it depends upon the technology, what we are using and what type of storage equipment we are using. So the key components of data center. So what are the components of data center? So it includes routers, it includes switches, it includes firewalls. See, all these are technical gadgets. So storage systems, that is memory systems, and then servers, and then controllers. See, all these things are managed in one data center, and you can imagine the power consumption of all these devices and how it has to be utilized and so on, right? So the continued rise of internet and web application is driving the rapid growth of data center, right? So the number of server computers in data centers has been increased sixfold to 30 million in last decade. So you can just imagine the speed, at what speed the server structure has been built. So, besides the cost, the availability of electrical power is becoming a critical issue for many companies whose data centers have expanded steadily. So, energy suppliers need time to design, build, and supply huge amounts of additional electrical power, so demanded by data centers. So, these social, financial, and practical constraints force business and IT departments to consider how to reduce or at least limit energy consumption by data centers. So, next is green cloud computing. So, what is green cloud computing? So, many of you have heard about cloud computing. Now, how it can be green? So, what are the measures that we have to take care to make it green? So, cloud computing is a technology that uses the internet for storing and managing data on remote servers and then access data via internet, right? So, a lot of services is given by cloud computing. So, this type of system allows users to work on remote. So, cloud computing customers do not own the physical infrastructure; they rent the usage from a third party provider. So you can use cloud computing for private purpose, that is for business purpose, or for public purpose. So all online marketing, online analytical transactions, okay. So all online supermarkets, will rely on cloud computing only. So all the recent transactions, all the recent latest online transactions are performed on cloud computing only. So cloud computing offers businesses, educational institutions, even the governments and individuals in both developed and emerging markets to use for several applications. So, to cater to the growing demands of cloud computing services, vendors use large data centers which consolidate thousands of servers with other infrastructure such as cooling, storage, and communication networks. So, with the growth of cloud, therefore comes increasing energy consumption by data centers. So, how can the clouds be greener? So, cloud computing is a green solution as cloud infrastructure embraces two critical elements. So, that are resource efficiency and energy efficiency. So, it will use less resources in order to give maximum service to the vendors. And it will use energy efficient devices in order to make green cloud. So next concept is about green data storage. How can we green the data storage? So data and information storage requirements keep growing drastically, right? So storage systems in data center consume significant amount of power, and also cooling system has to be implied. So for instance, in a data center, storage system consume anywhere between 24% and 40% of total IT power usage and are the center's biggest power hawks. So beside making servers energy efficient, the focus is on greening the data storage. So several approaches including MAID, that is massive array of idle disk spin down, tiered storage, and solid state drives are used for improving energy efficiency and cutting the overall cost of storing persistent data. So, system level approaches such as storage virtualization, so thin provisioning and data deduplication helps to reduce the required storage space and make efficient utilization of available space. So next we will move on to networking and communication. So networks and communication so play a very significant role than ever before and facilitate data transfer and also sharing. So they enable us to communicate and share the information online, that is using internet. So demands on communication networks, whether it is wired or wireless, is in great demand. So traditional networking systems and communication protocols are not particularly designed for energy efficiency. So thus we have some negative impact on the environment. So how can we green the network and communication system? So green networking refers to the ways of minimizing network's impact on the environment using energy efficient networking technologies, protocols and products, and minimizing resource use whenever possible. So green networking practices include the following. So using newer, more energy efficient techniques and technologies and products, using older equipment with newer, greener networking components, employing smart systems, user management, and energy conservation across IT networks to increase the energy efficiency. So, substituting telecommuting remote administration, and video conferencing during travel time. So these are the measures taken for making networking and communication greener. So next very important concept is about the software. So till now we were discussing only about the electronic devices. So now we will talk a few points about software. So although most of the focus has been on minimizing hardware's energy consumption and improvising resource utilization, so very little attention has been paid to environmental impact of software. So software is commonly regarded as neutral due to its virtual nature, but its indirect impact is fact real. So the most obvious impact is the higher energy consumption caused by inefficient software. So if you are using an inefficient software, so it will have 100% impact on environment. So how this is possible? So lot of softwares we are using in our system, whether it is laptop, whether it is desktop, we are using single user operating system, Windows, multi-user operating system like Unix and Linux operating system. If it is an mobile, you will be using Android or iOS system. If it is other devices, so how does the software impact? Does the software impact the environment? So the answer is yes. Software plays an important role in determining overall energy consumption and computational efficiency. So, for instance, a single ill behaving, computationally inefficient, or power unfriendly software component on a system can block all the power management benefits built into the hardware. So, if the software is not functioning properly, then all the devices will be in idle state and you will not get the proper information from those devices. So, software is the key element in improving environmental sustainability. It is at equal stage on par with the hardware, okay, in order to improve the environmental sustainability. So, green software is environmental friendly software that helps improve the environment. So, green software can be classified into four broad categories. So, first one is software that is greener, it consumes less energy to run. Embedded software, second one is the embedded software that assists other things in going green, that is smart operations. So, third category is sustainability reporting software, or it is also called as carbon management software. So, fourth category is software for understanding climate change, assessing its implications, and forming suitable policy responses. So, the manner in which software is developed and quality attributes of software impact the environment. So, sustainable software development refers to creating software addressing environmental requirements and also the perspectives. So next we will move on how we can optimize the software to a greener environment. So the best ways to optimize the software is to deploy virtualization. So what do you mean by virtualization? So virtualization is the process of abstracting or dividing the computer resources. We can divide the computer resource such as processor, storage memory into virtual computers or virtual machines into, we call it as VMs. So here two or more virtual instances run on a single robust physical system. So it helps conserve system resources by eliminating the requirement for original hardware while reducing and power consumption. So virtualization helps distribute work effectively so that server don't consume energy when not in use. So if you are sitting in a system here, so you can use if you are using Windows operating system under virtualization, you can take remote control here. So you can take remote control of this system and all the resources of this system is available in this system in order to access and this system becomes idle. So and the power consumption can be saved here. So likewise, multiple systems can be connected to one device in a virtual manner. So all this is possible by using virtual software, virtualization softwares. So creating efficient algorithms. So efficient algorithms can be one of the factors that influence the number of resources need for computing the function. So IT companies can make sure that the programmers write a better code in order to utilize less number of resources. Okay, so allocating resources strategically. So IT teams can use algorithms to route data to a data center, so with less expensive electricity available. So this approach allows them to shut down the system and avoid air conditioning while reducing the energy usage. So using terminal servers. So, what are terminal servers? So, terminal servers are the hardware devices providing terminals like PCs, smartphones, tablets, printers to share a common connection with the terminal server. So, using terminal servers eliminates the need for terminals to have a network interface modem or card of their own. If you implement terminal servers, you can save energy consumption as well as the cost. So I think I've covered most of the points which are included in Unit 1 and then Unit 2. So these are some of the references I have referred in order to make the presentation. So to conclude, we have explored on green aspects of electronic devices and computers. So we have examined the environmental problems created by electronic devices and hardware and explored how the IT industry is addressing these issues. We have outlined the best green practices from the perspective of manufacturers and discussed practical green measures that users should adopt. So, we also had outlined the importance of designing a device with the environmental considerations in mind so that the entire life cycle of the device could be better managed. We have also highlighted some of the major problems we encounter in recycling e-waste. So finally, we explored green hardware and also the software products which could result with sustainable energy consumption. So hope all of you benefited with the preliminary green IT concepts in today's session. So stay safe with Go Green concept and we shall explore few more topics in the next session. So thank you one and all.